Welcome to Creepin' It Real. I am Judah. Let's talk about Cthulhu Mansion that had a 1992 USA release. Now, this is based off of H.P. Lovecraft, if you didn't guess by the name Cthulhu Mansion. But like most Lovecraftian movies, they very rarely land on the mark, and they are so loosely based off of the actual works of H.P. Lovecraft that I can't say that I've actually ever seen one that I think truly should be called an H.P. Lovecraft movie. And once again, we find ourselves in that situation with this movie here. Now, just a side note, there was a period in my life when the people I was hanging around, they were in my friend group or my hangout group, and a lot of them would talk about H.P. Lovecraft, or it was always in the background kind of conversation, and I knew nothing of him. So just so that I could be part of the conversation, I got this big freaking thick book, a compilation of his works, and I set out, and I was like, I'm going to read this book, by golly. I got to be in on this conversation. I got to be in the know. And I forced myself to work through it, because Lovecraft, in my personal opinion, is not an easy read. That doesn't mean it's not enjoyable, but it's not easy. He goes into a lot of detail, and it can be a slog at times. What I did do, I did make it through, and so I am now in the know. I am part of the H.P. Lovecraft fan club, simply because I did take the time to read that. But if you go to Spotify, they have audiobooks of a lot of his short stories on there. And let me tell you, when you have somebody read these stories to you versus reading it yourself, it's a whole different experience. And what I found way more enjoyable. I mean, I could re-listen to some of these stories over and over again with somebody telling them to me. I just feel like I'm sitting there next to a fire in a dimly lit room, and there's a storyteller there telling me these crazy adventures, these things that he has seen and witnessed or heard rumors of. And that is really compelling for me. I really enjoy that. And so with as much enjoyment that I get from that, whenever I see a new movie come out that's supposedly based on H.P. Lovecraft, I always go with this hope that, oh, maybe this movie is going to be able to capture the same feel that I get from listening to these audiobooks, but they never do. I've never experienced one that has come close. Now, that doesn't mean, some of you may get frustrated with me saying this, that doesn't mean that some of these movies aren't entertaining. Like Reanimator is entertaining, okay? But it's still far from, what it's supposed to be. And a lot of these movies, they use the Lovecraft name, and it's not even supposedly based on the work. It's just supposed to be, inspired by the mythos, the Lovecraftian mythos. And some of them are good, and some of them are horrible. Well, good. That's also very subjective. But on to the topic of Cthulhu Mansion. This is not a very good one. This is if you're going in really hoping for some kind of a Lovecraftian movie, this is not going to do it for you. This is very lame and generic. I did still enjoy it. I'm going to say that right up front. I did enjoy it, but not for the Lovecraft aspects, which are almost non-existent there. The name is what attracted me, which is what they were hoping for originally. They hoped that they threw Lovecraft on there, Cthulhu, that it would attract Lovecraft fans. And that's exactly what it did. And I watched it, and I enjoyed it for what it was. This is not high art. This is really bad. The acting is horrible. The story is just barely pieced together. But it hit that itch that I was having for that 80s, 90s, feel of a movie. It's not a great movie, but I did enjoy myself watching it. The practical effects are nothing spectacular, but let's check out this trailer together.
Since the dawn of time, there has existed a cult that worshipped the great Cthulhu.
Okay, immediately. I mean, this trailer, this book, it's all just a ruse to attract all of us Lovecraft fans. And I mean, like I mentioned, it did its job with me. And I can see how disappointed many people would feel after watching this. But already, they're just pushing heavy. Cthulhu, Cthulhu, Cthulhu. But guess what? Don't hold your breath.
Demon so powerful that it destroyed all that came in its path.
There was that.
Cthulhu lives on today, hiding in distant wastes, dark places, and close to home, hiding and waiting for the one that will open the door and unleash Cthulhu on the world.
Check it out! It's like the Monster Mansion.
I missed that when I was watching it. That's pretty funny. I totally did not get that the first time I watched it, but that's very funny. So this old man and this blonde standing next to him, that's a father and daughter. He is a magician. He is retiring, or he has scaled back on his performances because of a tragic accident that occurred with his wife. His wife used to be his assistant, and now his daughter is. But in a performance, as part of the whole skit, he pulled out this old manuscript with some incantations from Cthulhu, and he read it, and his wife burst into flames, and she dies. It was horrifying. Anyway, that's where this all kind of stems from. He's been dabbling in this occultic stuff, trying to make contact, spoilers, with his dead wife so that he could apologize, get her forgiveness for essentially killing her through that ritual. There's no clear indication that he knew it was going to happen. It almost felt like it was just part of the act, and he didn't really understand what was occurring. But then after that, he has somewhat dedicated himself to diving into this so that he could reconnect with his wife from the beyond and get her forgiveness. That's what it seemed like to me, anyway.
By crossing this threshold,
This house holds great danger for all of us. We must leave.
we have entered a world of shadow and substance.
What the hell do you guys keep down there?
Nothing but hocus pocus shit.
Controlled by the ancient spirit of Cthulhu.
What's happening? A door.
What have you done?
I was haunted by her memory. I just had to reach her. Forgive me.
You opened the door.
The evil is free.
I don't believe this shit!
And you are doomed.
From the imagination of H.P. Lovecraft. Cthulhu Mansion.
Oh, let's stop right there. Cthulhu Mansion. They say that that's what the title is, but what does it say right there? Black Magic Mansion. That's just another very clear indication that they were just trying to sink their claws into the fan base of H.P. Lovecraft. This also had the title of Black Magic Mansion, which I personally feel is a much better title for this movie. I think you'd have less disappointment had they just stuck with that. Would they have gotten as many views in that initial release? I don't know, but I definitely like Black Magic Mansion far better than Cthulhu Mansion because it's misleading, as I've already discussed with you. This is not a great movie. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10, but I did enjoy it. And I will never watch it again. There definitely would be a buddy bump if you're watching this with a friend, having some pizza. And if you're into drinking a beer, you could have some fun watching this with a friend. But I'm sticking with 4 out of 10. I would still recommend it for anybody who's looking for that early 90s, 80s type feel movie. The practical effects are nothing special. There are a few in there. There was one scene where this girl is getting stuff out of a refrigerator. Everything is heavily hidden. You don't see full bodies of monsters other than one, but the refrigerator door is open, so the door is hiding, but you see these monster hands coming out. It gave me strong vibes from the movie House, which I love. It's one of definitely my top 10 horror movies. It's a very strong nostalgia watch for me. I love that movie. Of all horror movies, I've probably watched House the most. I love the humor in it. It was introduced to me by my grandma when I was very young. Probably the first true horror movie I ever saw. It's terrified me, but I enjoyed it, and I shared it with the rest of my family. And so that seeing these like hands kind of reaching out from the refrigerator gave me strong House vibes. And this woman is unaware, and it was somewhat comical in the fact that you see these pawing claws trying to grab her, and her just like unaware. It's just going about her business. Now, it does finally grab her, and then it turns tragic, and it yanks her into the refrigerator, and it closes. And obviously, whenever anybody else goes in the refrigerator, it's just a normal refrigerator. But that gave me that's also part of why I enjoyed this, because it gave me some kind of call to House, which is, like I mentioned, one of my favorite horror movies as a young person. Now, there are some very absurd things that occur in this. The whole story is there's like these group of whatever we're gonna call them hoodlums. They are into drugs. They make some kind of there's supposed to be some kind of a drug exchange at this fair. They're on this haunted ride, one of those you get in and it tracks you around this haunted house. And they're discussing this cocaine, and they're testing it, doing the stereotypical rubbing it on the teeth thing, and, oh yeah, that's good stuff, and I'll take the whole bag, and you can't afford the whole bag. Well, here's a down payment. My knife in your gut. That's pretty close to what happened. And then he threw him out of the cart, and he touched the lines, and he got electrocuted. Anyway, then they're trying to escape the fair, but there's a lockdown. The cops are there. They're checking every car. They're not going to let anybody get out, and they're going to find this person who stabbed this dude. So that's when they kidnap the magician and his daughter, and he had another assistant, a male assistant, and they hide in their car, and they go out, and then they force them to go to the magician's mansion, where they're going to hide out until things die down. But this is all over cocaine, and they have this big bag of cocaine, and then they want to resell it to somebody. They're all talking about how rich they're going to be, which is very funny, because I think at one point they're talking about $8,000, and I'm like, if $8,000 makes you rich, that's like nothing. I could spend that in a half a week on just like normal living. I don't know what. Okay, maybe that's a little over exaggerated. Give me a month and I could get rid of that from just day-to-day living, perhaps. So they're making their getaway from the fair. They hid in the car, and as they're being questioned at the gate, the magician does some kind of a trick with a cigar. He makes a cigar appear, and the guy checking at the gate, he's like, "Oh, that's great, but I don't smoke anymore." And he's like, "But I'll take that cigar," and he yoinks it out of his hand. Then they're away. They've driven. They're like on the bypass or whatever freeway, going to the mansion, and that chick is one of the women in this hoodlum group is all like, I want to see that cigar trick. And then the leader of this gang of degenerates is all like, yeah, old man, if you try another trick like that, you're going to get it. I'm like, what? You're going to kill a dude because he does like a card trick? He makes a cigar appear out of nowhere and you're threatening to kill him because if he tries to pull another trick like that, what? Were you threatened somehow by the fact that he made this cigar just appear? So this guy has a gun throughout almost the whole movie. His lack of safety with this gun is absurd. I've never seen this much lack of intelligence when handling firearms since Plan 9 from Outer Space. Let me just give you an example here. I've always found this so funny. Of the amount that I have watched of this, when I saw this, I died laughing. Watch this guy right here in the center, the way that he handles his gun.
To do with this? Your guess as good as mine, Larry.
Look at this. Let me just rub
One
this.
thing sure.
Yeah, I always thought that. There's definitely another scene. Again, finger full on the trigger, and he's just rubbing this gun up against his face. The absurdity and lack of concern for safety just blew me away. But that's not the only place. Watch this guy.
Okay, now listen good. Because this is what we're gonna do.
Yep.
Where'd you say you lived?
Same amount of concern. I'm going to have my finger on the trigger of this gun, and I'm going to use it to just pull the hair back off of my face. No concern. He does this several times throughout the movie. There's another absurdity. One of the girls in this group, her brother gets shot in the leg. He's bleeding out. If they don't get him to a hospital, he's going to die. But this asshole that's like rubbing the gun up against his own head, he doesn't care. He's only concerned about himself and this cocaine and making this big score, and he doesn't care that this guy is going to die. He's like in this weird kind of, well, he was the one stupid enough to get shot. He deserves to die. I ain't taking him to the hospital so we can get caught. I'm just making up this accent. That's not how it was at all. So in this mansion, her brother is like in bad shape. They did what they could for his leg, but he's in bad shape, and they've got him up in this bedroom. Now, the old magician is who bandaged him up. He was like, hey, bring him into this room. He's like, I got a first aid kit. I'll do what I can for him. So then later on in the movie, the sister goes to check on him, the brother, and she sees he's in a bad place. So she goes downstairs by gunpoint, forces the magician. She says, get your first aid kit. You're making a house call. You know, all like tough and being cool by saying that. You're making a house call. And she marches him upstairs to the bedroom that her brother's in. So she purposely tells him to get the first aid kit so they can go up and redress his wound or see if there's anything else they can do to help him. They go into the room. Now her brother has all this weird stuff. He's like being possessed by the spirit of Cthulhu, or however they want it. He's got, his face is all weird looking. And the sister's freaking out. What did you do to my brother? And some other person's like says to the old magician, do something for him. So he starts walking over to like do something. The very thing that the sister brought him up to do. And then she grabs him. Don't you touch him. Don't you touch him. Why did you bring me up here? Remember that cool line? You're going to make a house call. Now suddenly we're up here and it's my fault? How was that? You just brought me up here to redress his wound. I wasn't even up here. You had me tied up downstairs. How is this my fault? Anyway, that was another thing that really frustrated me, which, by the way, that actress is played by William Shatner's daughter. Can't remember her name, but she was horrible in this movie. Actually, she was probably one of the better parts of this movie. She doesn't have a huge part in it, other than the fact that her brother being shot is kind of a major part of this movie. And she's always concerned for him and looking to get him treatment. And it's always this battle between her and this leader of this group not caring. Why these people would stay in such a oddly aggressive dynamic is beyond me. But anyway, everything in the end turns out as best as it can. The blonde daughter of the magician escapes, and the brother that was shot in the leg escapes. But everybody else dies by different means. Nothing super fantastic and fun to watch, but they all just die at some form. And then the mansion explodes. End of movie. I thought it was weird, the choice of people that they chose to make it out. One of the hoodlums makes it out alive. I thought that was weird. Not like, I mean, if this situation was to happen in real life, then yeah, the probability that one of the bad guys makes it out alive, there is a possibility of that. But it almost made it feel like, well, he wasn't a real bad guy. He was just a victim of circumstance. But no, in the movie, he's trying to hijack some dude's car. So no, he wasn't a good guy. So it just seemed a little weird that he would be chosen as one of the survivors. That's how it is for me. Me, 4 out of 10. Let's see what people on IMDb are saying about this movie. This is from Dementia 13. This was left on November 12th, 2009. Well, that's what, you know what? Oddly enough, not that any of you care, but that is very close to the exact date that I closed my music venue, the Underground Cafe. Now, it may have been November 25th, but it was November of 2009 was the last show I had at my venue, the Underground Cafe. I did go on a few more years promoting concerts at different locations, maybe like five more years after that. I still went on and promoted shows at different locations, but my actual venue, that ended in November of 2009. So, Dementia 13. I read somewhere that this movie had nothing to do with H.P. Lovecraft. You are correct. It had nothing to do with H.P. Lovecraft, but was given its title solely in the hopes of attracting viewers. Yes, we have discussed this. Because there's nothing about the movie itself that would attract viewers. Well, I'm not a fan of the so bad it's good idea. It's just a mask for people who can't admit to liking lowbrow or low budget movies. That's total BS. I have no problem admitting that I like watching these low budget movies. I enjoy it. And to say that saying it's so bad, it's good is a cover up for people who can't admit that, that is so BS. I will admit that till the day I die. I love these garbage B movies. And yes, it's because they're so bad, they are good. So I'm just going to have to stop you right there. There are movies out there like that. And I have no problem admitting I like watching B movies. Gosh, who knew I was going to get so triggered by this? But this movie isn't lowbrow. It's just bad. You know what? We're all entitled to our opinions. Okay? It isn't a good movie. It's got no acting, no thrills, and possibly maybe the only movie I've seen about which I didn't like anything at all. I've had those moments. Terrifier, anybody? You may like Terrifier. I think it's garbage. And there's nothing about it that I liked. I literally gave it a 1 out of 10, and that 1 was simply because they made a movie. I had to give them props for getting a movie made. One of the very worst I've seen, and far worse than any of the films I've seen that turn up on IMDb's bottom 100 list. This is not even one you'd watch for curiosity's sake. That's interesting. I mean, that's a really bad review. This is not a good movie. but there are definitely aspects of it that I enjoyed. I mentioned I felt like it reminded me of House. Okay, let's see. What do we got here? Let's see what Buzzcut Multimedia says. This was left back in September 24th, 2021. Gives it a 7 out of 10. Genuinely shocking how poorly this film is rated. Sure, it's not sophisticated Lovecraftian psychological yarn, but it is a totally entertaining, over-the-top haunted house roller coaster with more gothic atmosphere than you can shake a stick at. The great classic effects and gross-out makeup alone make it worth a watch, and legitimate excellent score pushes it along. Definitely will be rewatching this one. Interesting. As much as I thought the last person oversold the horrendousness of it, I definitely think this person oversold how fantastic this movie is. I don't think, unless, like, I can see my brother coming home to visit. He lives in Oregon. I can see him coming home and me being like, dude, because he's a big Lovecraft fan, and I could see us bonding over watching this together and laughing at how absurd it is and that it has absolutely nothing to do with the Lovecraftian lore that we appreciate. But other than that, I think they oversold this as far as, great classic effects and gross out makeup. I get grossed out by things that look oozy. And there is a point where one character, their face looks oozy, so it definitely grosses me out. But that's just because I have a low tolerance for juicy things. I'm feeling myself getting a little dry heavy thinking about it right now. So that was Cthulhu Mansion, also known as Black Magic Mansion. Which title do you think is better? You know where I land. Thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions on movies that I should check out, please leave them in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching. This has been Creepin' It Real, and I will see you next time.